Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Cabally, no doubt Jaylen Warren enters season as Steelers starter regardless of who they draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers agreed to slap RB Jaylen Warren with a second-round tender this year at north of $5 million. While that isn't guaranteed until the start of the season, it's hard to imagine him going anywhere. Provided that is true, it's a more than reasonable salary for an RB1A. Yet will that be his role? Because even those who cover the team can't seem to agree, Jerry Dulac recently saying he expects a rookie to be the primary ball carrier with Jaylen Warren supporting him. That is a take not shared by Mark Cabally, who basically said the opposite. Asked if the Steelers are comfortable with Warren as the lead back or if they will spend a high pick on the position to carry or share the load, Cabally started by saying that both things can be true. There is no doubt that Warren goes into the season as the starter, he then stated. That seems like a broadly declarative statement, which is odd given how often Cabally hedges his answers. To say that there is no doubt Jaylen Warren enters the season as the Steelers starter leaves, well, no room for doubt. But what if the Steelers are to draft Ashton Jeanty, for example? That doesn't mean they won't address the position in the first round of the draft if a certain person is still on the board, coupled with a handful of others off the board, Cabally added, while at no point suggesting that even a first-round rookie might start over Warren for the Steelers. Depth is a huge issue. I am not sure Kenny Gainwell is a guy who can manage 20 carries per game if Warren goes down. At worst, they will add a veteran the week after the draft. Of course, there is no guarantee that Ashton Jeanty would be available, indeed, more likely, he won't be. There are other backs the Steelers might draft in the first round, like Amari and Hampton. But with no second-round pick, even in a deep class for backs, Warren might beat out a third-rounder. Then there is the discussion of semantics, and what exactly a starter is. Might the Steelers start Jaylen Warren and play him more snaps, yet have a rookie take more touches? Might Warren go into the season as the starter, but shortly thereafter cede his pole position? The more pragmatic question, of course, is when the Steelers plan to draft a running back. If they did have Jeanty sitting at 21, and some other players are not available, would they draft him? It's worth considering that Warren will be an unrestricted free agent after this season, too. A former college free agent, Jaylen Warren has 1,674 rushing yards for the Steelers on 346 carries. He also has 894 receiving yards, with 6 touchdowns. These aren't exactly numbers that knock your socks off, but it's good production per touch. Well, maybe not for scoring, but the Steelers generally gave Najee Harris the scoring opportunities. Steelers insider shoots down trade speculation, isn't going anywhere. Will Pittsburgh Steelers general manager Omar Khan trade either safety Minkah Fitzpatrick or wide receiver George Pickens? Two Pittsburgh Steelers players have been the subject of trade speculation for the majority of the 2025 offseason, Minkah Fitzpatrick and George Pickens. On April 7, veteran Pittsburgh beat reporter Mark Cabally answered fans' questions during a mailbag post and he provided his informed opinion on the legitimacy of both these trade rumors. Fitzpatrick isn't going anywhere this year, Cabally replied, after being asked if the veteran safety could be traded following a safety selection in the draft. Now, next year, anything is on the table, the Steelers insider added. And if they do go after a safety within the first 100 picks, it would be more about the future than the present. Fitzpatrick is under contract until the 2027 offseason. He carries a $22.355 million cap hit in 2025, per over the cap. If the Steelers were to release or trade Fitzpatrick at the start of the 2026 offseason as Cabally alluded, they would shed a whopping $17.6 million in cap space. Pickens' trade speculation seemed to fizzle out at the NFL owners' meeting after head coach Mike Tomlin spoke out in favor of having 2-star wide receivers. Cabally echoed that sentiment on April 7, after a fan pondered Pickens' trade value and likelihood. A second-round pick, is the minimum that it'd take to trade Pickens, Cabally answered. Before quickly voicing, that's not going to happen. Unless Pickens demands a trade, there is no real reason to move him, the beat writer explained. You would imagine that he would fetch a third-round compensatory pick if he signs elsewhere next year, so I am not giving up a potential playmaking receiver making $3.65 million this year just to recoup something you could get if you keep him. Later, after a different question on how to convince Pickens not to request a trade, Cabally said the following. C.T. Higgins, he replied. I'd show Pickens a picture and remind him that a lame duck year might not be a lame duck year. It could turn into a boatload of money. Plus, with a trade, he can't choose his next team. As a free agent, he can. Finally, Cabally detailed why he's coming around to the idea of Pickens potentially signing an extension to remain in Pittsburgh. I have leaned toward no chance, he resigns, but I might be shifting that thought a little back to the midway point, Cabally said. If they have a quarterback on a rookie deal, then they could afford to pay two receivers big bucks. The second big money WR obviously being trade acquisition DK Metcalf. I wouldn't anticipate it happening, Cabally clarified, regarding a Pickens extension. But I wouldn't rule it out either. If the Steelers didn't think they could compete for a Super Bowl in 2025, the smart move would be to trade both Pickens and Fitzpatrick. Clearly, Pittsburgh believes they are serious contenders this season. That all hinges on Aaron Rodgers signing with the franchise, however, unless the Steelers feel they can also compete for a Super Bowl with either Mason Rudolph or a rookie QB. All signs point to Rodgers eventually inking a deal with Pittsburgh, but until it actually happens, there will be a certain lingering feeling. Priority one must be getting Rodgers under contract. Although the Steelers have not appeared pressed to do so. Ian Rappaport sends strong message about Aaron Rodgers' future amid retirement rumors. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers has yet to sign with the Steelers, which may be making some Pittsburgh fans a little antsy. Other QB-needy teams have already passed on Rodgers. The New York Giants signed QBs Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in free agency. The Minnesota Vikings, meanwhile, are set to roll with QB J.J. McCarthy. With Rodgers running out of suitors, why hasn't he signed with Pittsburgh? Is the 41-year-old considering retiring? It sounds like that's not the case. On a Monday episode of Good Morning Football, NFL media insider Ian Rappaport indicated contract negotiations are taking longer than Pittsburgh expected, but Rodgers still wants to play in 2025. It seems like Pittsburgh is the most likely place for Rodgers by far, Rappaport said. Meanwhile, the specter of possible retirement, doesn't seem likely. Rappaport added Steelers owner Art Rooney too may grow impatient if he doesn't hear from Rodgers soon. The team probably wants to know his plans to determine whether it should take a QB in the 2025 NFL Draft, scheduled for April 24 to 26 in Green Bay. Assuming the Steelers land the four-time MVP, that would upgrade their QB room. This offseason, the Steelers reunited with QB Mason Rudolph after he spent one season with the Tennessee Titans. The Oklahoma State product has a 9-8-1 starting record in the regular season in 6 seasons. The only other active QB on the Steelers roster is Skylar Thompson, who had a 1-2 starting record in 2 seasons with the Miami Dolphins. Rodgers went 5-12 in 17 starts with the New York Jets in 2024 but is still among the greatest QBs in league history. In 20 seasons, he has won a Super Bowl and earned 4 first-team All-Pro selections. And you fan? What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' situation? Write to us in the comments.